Marcus Whitfield hadn't looked anyone in the eye for 3 years. Not since the accident. Not since his daughter Emma disappeared into the cold March rain and never came home. The police said she likely ran away, joined the countless young people living rough in the city. But Marcus knew better. Emma wouldn't have left without her mother's wedding ring, the one she wore on a chain around her neck. Every day since, he'd driven these same streets, searching faces in doorways and alleyways, hoping for a glimpse of those green eyes that matched his own. That November morning, stuck in traffic near 5th and Madison, he almost didn't notice her. An older woman, maybe 60, gray hair tucked under a wool cap, bent over a dumpster behind Rosie's diner. Her hands moved with strange care, not the desperate searching of someone looking for food. She pulled something out, pressed it to her chest, and Marcus felt his breath catch. "Where are you watching from today?" Marcus had built his fortune in real estate, buying forgotten buildings and breathing life back into them. His wife Claire used to joke that he saw potential in everything broken. "That's why you married me," she'd tease, referring to her own difficult childhood. But Claire had been gone for 5 years now, cancer taking her before she turned 50. Emma had been 16 then, and the grief had changed her. Made her angry and distant. Made her run. The light turned green, but Marcus couldn't move. Behind him, horns blared, but his hands gripped the steering wheel as he watched the woman carefully wrap whatever she'd found in a piece of cloth. There was something about her movements, a gentleness that seemed out of place in this harsh morning light. Without thinking, he pulled over, ignoring the angry gestures of other drivers. He stepped out of his Mercedes, suddenly aware of how he must look in his tailored suit and Italian shoes. The November wind cut through the street, carrying the smell of coffee from the diner and something else, something forgotten and sad. The woman hadn't noticed him yet. She was sitting on an overturned milk crate now, the wrapped bundle in her lap, rocking slightly. "Excuse me," Marcus said softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you all right?" She looked up, and Marcus saw that she wasn't as old as he'd first thought. 50, maybe 55, but the streets had worn lines into her face that made her seem ancient. Her eyes, though, her eyes were sharp and blue and reminded him of Claire's, wary but not unkind. "I'm fine," she said, her voice rough from the cold. "You can go about your business," but Marcus couldn't leave. Something held him there, some invisible thread pulling at his chest. "That diner," he gestured behind her. "They serve a good breakfast. Can I buy you something? Coffee at least? It's cold out here." The woman studied him for a long moment. Marcus had learned that most homeless people could spot pity from a mile away, and they hated it. But whatever she saw in his face must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly. "Coffee would be good," she said. "But I won't go inside. People don't like it when folks like me come in." "Then I'll bring it out," Marcus said. He started toward the diner, then turned back. "I'm Marcus, by the way." "Dorothy," she said. "But people used to call me Dot." Inside Rosie's diner, the warmth hit Marcus like a wall. The place was nearly empty, just a few early risers hunched over their eggs and toast. Betty, the waitress who'd worked there for decades, gave him a curious look. She knew who he was. Marcus owned this building along with 12 others on this block. "Coffee to go, Betty," he said. "And 2 breakfast specials. Make one of them with extra bacon, and pack it up proper." Betty raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. While she put the order together, Marcus found himself thinking about Emma. She'd be 19 now. Was she hungry somewhere? Was someone showing her kindness? Or had the streets hardened her beyond recognition? When he returned outside with the bag and 2 steaming cups, Dorothy was still there, still holding that wrapped bundle like it was made of glass. He handed her the coffee and she took it with both hands, breathing in the steam. "There's food, too," Marcus said, setting the bag down beside her. "Eggs, bacon, toast. It's still hot," Dorothy's eyes glistened. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Marcus said. He surprised himself by sitting down on the curb next to her crate. His expensive suit would be ruined, but he didn't care. "What's in the cloth?" he asked gently, "if you don't mind me asking." Dorothy was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she wouldn't answer. Then she carefully unfolded the fabric and Marcus leaned forward to see. It was a small teddy bear, worn and stained but carefully preserved. One of its button eyes was missing, and its fur had been loved nearly smooth in places. "My daughter's," Dorothy said softly. "I gave it to her when she was 3. She named him Mr. Buttons because of the eyes." Her voice broke slightly. "I've been looking for it for 2 years. Ever since—" She stopped, shaking her head. "Ever since I lost everything." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Your daughter?" "Gone," Dorothy whispered. "Maybe dead. I don't know. She ran away when she was 17. That was 8 years ago. I searched everywhere, but—" She clutched the bear tighter. "This was in a donation bag someone threw out. I saw it through the clear plastic. I'd know Mr. Buttons anywhere." Marcus's hands began to tremble. "What was your daughter's name?" "Emma," Dorothy said. "Her name was Emma." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Marcus set his coffee down carefully, afraid he might drop it. "Emma," he repeated, the name barely more than a breath. How old would she be now? 25, Dorothy said, her eyes distant. If she's still alive, the ages didn't match. His Emma would only be 19. But the coincidence sent ice through Marcus's veins anyway. How many Emmas were out there, lost and searching? How many mothers and fathers sat on street corners, clutching memories? "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. "I lost my daughter too. Different Emma, but—" He couldn't finish. Dorothy turned to look at him fully for the first time, really seeing him. "Then you know," she said simply. "You know what it's like to wake up every morning and wonder if today's the day you'll find them. Or if today's the day you'll finally give up hope." They sat in silence, two parents bound by grief, as the morning traffic rushed past them. Finally, Marcus spoke. "How did you end up out here?" Dorothy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The usual way. My husband left when Emma disappeared. Said he couldn't stand to look at me anymore, like it was my fault she ran. I couldn't work, couldn't think. Lost my job at the hospital. I was a nurse, can you believe that? Then the house, then everything else. Started drinking to forget. That didn't help." She took a sip of coffee. "Been on the streets for 6 years now. Mostly sober, but it doesn't matter. Once you fall this far, people stop seeing you as human." Marcus thought about his own life. The big, empty house in the suburbs. The business that had flourished even as his personal life crumbled. The way he'd thrown himself into work to avoid the silence. He'd never been in danger of losing his home, but he understood loss. He understood the way grief could hollow you out from the inside. "I've been looking for my Emma for 3 years, he said quietly. "Every day. I drive these streets, I check the shelters, I talk to the police. They think I'm crazy, but I can't stop." "You're not crazy," Dorothy said firmly. "You're a father. It's what we do." She looked down at the bear in her lap. "I used to drive too before I lost the car. Now I just walk. I know every inch of this city. Every overpass where kids sleep, every soup kitchen, every place the lost ones go." An idea was forming in Marcus's mind, something wild and desperate. "What if we looked together?" he asked. "What if you helped me search for my Emma, and I helped you search for yours?" Dorothy studied him with those sharp blue eyes. "Why would you want me around?" "I'm nobody. I'm invisible." "That's exactly why," Marcus said, the pieces clicking into place. "You see the city in ways I never could. You know where to look, who to talk to. And maybe," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "maybe 2 broken people searching together are stronger than 1 person searching alone." Something shifted in Dorothy's expression. A crack in the wall she'd built around herself. "What do you get out of this?" "Hope," Marcus said simply. "I get to remember that I'm not the only one still looking. That I'm not crazy for refusing to give up." Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then she unwrapped the breakfast Marcus had brought her and began to eat, tears running silently down her weathered cheeks. "Between bites," she said, "I haven't had anyone believe in me for a long time." "Well, now you do," Marcus said. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a routine. Marcus would pick Dorothy up every morning, and they'd drive through the city, stopping at shelters and homeless camps, showing photos of their daughters to anyone who would look. Dorothy knew everyone, the street vendors, the other homeless folks, the social workers who passed out blankets and sandwiches. She spoke their language, earned their trust in ways Marcus's money never could. In the afternoons, Marcus would drop Dorothy at a small extended-stay motel he'd rented for her. At first she'd refused, but he'd been firm. "You can't help me search if you're sick from sleeping in the cold," he'd said. Consider it part of the job. The job, that's what they called it, though no money changed hands. But Marcus made sure there was food, warm clothes, and a roof over Dorothy's head. He told himself it was practical, but the truth was simpler. Taking care of Dorothy made him feel less useless, less like he was drowning in his own grief. They didn't find either Emma, but they found something else. Stories, dozens of them. Every person they met had a story, a reason they'd ended up on the streets. Mothers who'd lost children, children who'd lost parents, people who'd made one bad choice that spiraled into 1,000 more. And in every face, Marcus saw his daughter, saw the possibility of who she might have become. One evening, as Marcus was dropping Dorothy off at the motel, she said something that changed everything. "You know what I realized today?" she asked. "That bear I found? The one I thought was my Emma's?" She pulled it from her bag. She carried it everywhere now. "It can't be hers. The button eye is missing on the wrong side. My Emma's bear lost the left eye. This one lost the right." Marcus felt his heart sink. "So it's not hers?" "No," Dorothy said softly. "But it belonged to someone's Emma, someone's daughter. And whoever donated that bag, wherever that little girl is now, she probably misses Mr. Buttons." She looked at Marcus. "Tomorrow I want to try to find her. The girl this bear belonged to. Because maybe," her voice broke, "maybe if we can reunite this bear with its person, it means our Emmas can still come home too. If this moment touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us share more stories of hope and compassion." Marcus realized then that Dorothy wasn't just helping him search anymore. She was teaching him something profound about love and loss and the act of not giving up. She was teaching him that sometimes you find what you're looking for by helping others find what they've lost. But he couldn't have known that the very next day, the search for Mr. Buttons' owner would lead them somewhere neither of them expected, straight into the heart of a truth that would shatter everything Marcus thought. He knew about his own daughter's disappearance. The donation bag had come from St. Mary's Church on 7th Street. It took Dorothy 3 phone calls and a personal visit to track that information down. She had a way of talking to people, of making them want to help her, that Marcus envied. The church secretary, a kind woman named Linda, remembered the bag because it had come in with a larger donation from a woman cleaning out her storage unit. She said she was moving into assisted living, Linda explained, flipping through her records. "Had to downsize. Oh, here it is. Mrs. Patricia Chen. She left a forwarding address in case we had any tax receipt questions." Patricia Chen lived in a modest apartment complex in the north part of the city. When they knocked on her door that afternoon, a tiny woman in her 70s answered, her face creasing with curiosity. "Can I help you?" Dorothy held out the bear gently. "Mrs. Chen, we found this in a donation bag you gave to St. Mary's. We think it might have belonged to someone important, and we wanted to return it to its rightful owner." Patricia's eyes widened. She reached out with trembling hands, taking the bear. "Oh my goodness. Oh my stars. Where did you find this?" "In a dumpster behind Rosie's diner," Marcus said quietly. "Someone must have thrown out the donation bag." "Come in, please come in," Patricia said, stepping back. Her apartment was small but spotlessly clean, filled with photos and the smell of jasmine tea. She gestured for them to sit on a worn sofa. "This bear," she said, clutching it to her chest, "belonged to my granddaughter, Lily. She gave it to me before she—" Patricia's voice broke. "Before she died." Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. "I'm so sorry." "She was only 22, Patricia continued, tears streaming down her face. "Car accident 3 years ago. She'd kept this bear since childhood. In the hospital right before—" She couldn't finish. "She gave it to me, said, 'Grandma, you keep Mr. Buttons. He'll keep you company.' I've treasured it ever since, but when I had to move—" She shook her head. "My daughter, Lily's mother, she was helping me pack. She must have accidentally put it in the donation pile. I've been searching for it for weeks. I thought it was gone forever." Dorothy reached over and took the old woman's hand. "It's not gone," she said gently. "It's right here, and now it's home." Patricia looked between them, her eyes full of gratitude and sorrow. "Why did you do this? Why did you take the time to find me?" "Because we're both looking for our daughters," Marcus said quietly. And we thought that maybe, if we could bring someone else's treasure home, it would mean ours might come home too. Patricia's expression shifted to understanding. "You've lost children," she whispered. "Lost them to the streets," Dorothy said. "They're out there somewhere. At least, we hope they are." What happened next, Marcus would remember for the rest of his life. Patricia stood up, still holding the bear, and went to a small desk in the corner. She pulled out a worn notebook and flipped through the pages. "After Lily died," she said, "I couldn't sleep. I started volunteering at the night shelter on Morrison Avenue. Just serving food, talking to people. It helped, knowing I was doing something she would have wanted." She paused, her fingers stopping on a page. "There was a girl who came in regularly for about 6 months. Started coming about 2.5 years ago. She was young, maybe 18 or 19, and she never wanted to talk to anyone. But one night she was sick, feverish, and she let me help her." Marcus's heart began to pound. What was her name? She wouldn't say. But she had these unusual green eyes, striking really, and a small tattoo on her wrist, a bird, like she was learning to fly. Patricia looked up, and she wore a ring on a chain around her neck. A simple gold band. She'd hold on to it when she was scared. The room spun. Marcus gripped the arm of the sofa. "My wife's wedding ring," he whispered. "Emma took it when she left." Dorothy squeezed his arm hard. "Are you sure?" "The bird tattoo," Patricia continued. "She told me she got it on her 17th birthday. Said it was supposed to remind her that she could escape anything if she just spread her wings. Emma had gotten that tattoo a week before she disappeared." Marcus had been furious. Claire had been dead for 6 months, and Emma had used money from her mother's life insurance to ink her wrist. They'd fought terrible words that Marcus had never taken back. "Where is she now?" Marcus asked, his voice hoarse. "Please, is she still at the shelter?" Patricia's face fell. "She stopped coming about 2 years ago, but one of the other volunteers thought she'd gotten into a program. A place that helps young people get off the streets. I wrote down the name somewhere." She searched through her notebook. "Here, Second Chances. It's a residential program on the east side. Have you ever been given information that changed your entire life in an instant? Share your thoughts in the comments below." Marcus stood so quickly he nearly knocked over the tea table. Dorothy caught his arm. "Marcus, wait. We need to think this through." But thinking was impossible. After 3 years of searching, of driving past every alleyway and shelter, of showing Emma's photo to thousands of strangers who shook their heads and turned away. After all of that, he might have found her. "She might be alive. She might be getting help. I have to go there," Marcus said. "Right now. I have to know." Dorothy looked at Patricia, then back at Marcus. "Then I'm coming with you," she said firmly. "You don't do this alone." Patricia pressed the bear into Dorothy's hands. "Take Mr. Buttons with you," she said. "He brought you to me. Maybe he'll bring you to your daughters too." As they rushed toward the car, Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Whitfield, this is Sarah from Second Chances. A young woman just told me you might be looking for her. She says her name is Emma, and she's ready to see you now." The drive across the city took 20 minutes, but it felt like 20 years. Marcus's hands shook so badly that Dorothy had to tell him to pull over at a gas station so she could drive instead. He sat in the passenger seat, staring at his phone, reading and rereading that text message until the words lost all meaning. "What if it's not her?" he whispered. "Then we keep looking," Dorothy said, her eyes on the road. "But Marcus, what if it is?" Second Chances occupied an old apartment building that had been converted into a residential program. The brick facade was freshly painted, and flower boxes lined the windows despite the November chill. A young woman with kind eyes and a clipboard met them at the door. "Mr. Whitfield?" she asked. "I'm Sarah. Where is she?" Marcus could barely form the words. "She's in the common room." "But Mr. Whitfield, I need to prepare you." Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. "Emma has been working very hard on her recovery. She's been with us for 18 months, and she's made incredible progress. But seeing you is going to be difficult for her. There are things she needs to say, things she's been practicing with her therapist. I don't care what she needs to say," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "I just need to see her. I need to know she's alive." Sarah nodded and led them down a bright hallway lined with artwork, paintings and drawings made by the residents. At the end of the hall, A doorway opened into a large room with comfortable couches and bookshelves. And there, standing by the window with her back to them, was a young woman with long dark hair. "Emma?" Marcus whispered. She turned around slowly and Marcus felt his knees buckle. It was her, older, thinner, with shadows under those green eyes he'd been searching for, but it was his daughter. His Emma. "Alive, Dad," she said, and her voice cracked on the word. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, reaching for her, but Emma held up a hand. "Wait," she said. "Please, I have things I need to say first." It took everything in Marcus to stop, to stand there with his arms aching to hold her while she gathered her courage. Dorothy slipped quietly into a chair near the door, giving them space but staying close enough to offer support. "I ran away because I was angry," Emma began, her words coming fast as if she'd rehearsed them 1,000 times. "I was so angry at you for still being alive when Mom wasn't, for going to work every day like nothing had changed, for not falling apart the way I was falling apart." Tears streamed down her face. "And then we fought about the tattoo, and you said I was disrespecting Mom's memory, and I snapped. "I thought if I left you'd finally feel something. You'd finally break." "Emma, please," she said. "Let me finish. I lived on the streets for 6 months. It was horrible. I was scared every single day. I did things I'm not proud of just to survive. And the whole time I kept thinking you'd come find me, that you'd somehow know where I was and come save me." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "But you didn't. And I realized that was my fault, not yours. I'd hidden too well. I'd pushed you away too hard." "I looked for you every single day," Marcus said, his voice raw. "Every single day, Emma. I never stopped." "I know that now," Emma said softly. "Sarah showed me the missing persons reports, the private investigator records, all of it. You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to find me. You never gave up." She took a shaky breath. "But I was using a fake name. I was sleeping in places you'd never think to look, and by the time I realized I wanted to come home, I didn't know how. I was so ashamed of what I'd become." Dorothy spoke from her chair, her voice kind but firm. "Shame is a prison we build for ourselves. I know that better than anyone." Emma looked at Dorothy for the first time, seeing her worn clothes and weathered face. "Who are you?" "Someone who lost her daughter, too," Dorothy said. "Someone who understands that sometimes the hardest thing in the world is asking for help." "Mrs. Chen at the shelter," Emma said suddenly, recognition dawning. "She talked about you, about a woman who'd lost everything but was still out there trying to help people find their way home." She looked at Marcus. "Dad, is this the Dorothy from St. Mary's?" Marcus nodded, unable to speak. "She's the one who told me about second chances," Emma continued. 2 years ago, when I had pneumonia and thought I was going to die in an alley. She sat with me at the shelter all night, and in the morning, she gave me a card for this place. She said, 'You don't have to live in the past. You can choose a different future.' It took me 4 more months to come here, but I did it because of her." Dorothy's hands flew to her mouth. "The girl with the green eyes," she whispered. "The one with the ring on a chain. That was you?" If you've been moved by Emma's journey, please subscribe to our channel for more stories of hope, healing, and second chances. "I'm so sorry," Emma said, turning back to her father. "I'm so sorry for the pain I caused you. I'm sorry I didn't come home sooner. I'm sorry I made you search for me for 3 years when I was the one who was lost." Marcus crossed the distance between them and wrapped his daughter in his arms. She collapsed against him, sobbing, and he held her the way he'd held her when she was small, and the world seemed too big and scary. "You're not lost anymore," he whispered into her hair. "You're found. You're here. Nothing else matters." They stood like that for a long time, 2 people piecing themselves back together, while Dorothy wept quietly in her chair, clutching Mr. Buttons to her chest, reminded that sometimes prayers get answered in the most unexpected ways. 3 months later, on a bright February morning, Marcus stood in front of a small house on Maple Street. It wasn't grand or impressive, just a modest 2-bedroom with a front porch and a yard that needed some attention. But it was solid and warm, and, most importantly, it was home. Dorothy stood beside him, staring up at the house in disbelief. "Marcus, this is too much," she said for the 100th time. You can't just buy me a house. I'm not buying you a house, Marcus corrected, pressing the keys into her hand. I'm giving someone who changed my life a place to rest. There's a difference. In the month since Emma had come home, everything had shifted. Emma was still living at Second Chances, working through her recovery program, but she came for dinner twice a week. They were learning how to be family again, carefully and with patience, guided by family therapy sessions where they both finally said the things that needed to be said, and Dorothy had been there through all of it. She'd become Emma's sponsor, the person Emma called when things got hard. She'd sat with Marcus on the nights when the guilt threatened to drown him, reminding him that blame and shame were luxuries neither of them could afford anymore. She'd become family in the way that sometimes happens when broken people help each other heal. What will I do with a whole house? Dorothy asked, her voice trembling. Whatever you want, Marcus said, though I was hoping you might use the second bedroom for something special. Dorothy looked at him questioningly. I've been thinking, Marcus said, about all those people we met while we were searching. All those parents looking for their kids, all those kids looking for a way home. What if this house became a place where they could connect? A hub for the lost and searching? Emma appeared on the porch then, carrying a box of cleaning supplies. She'd been inside, making sure everything was perfect. We already put up a bulletin board in the kitchen, she said with a smile, for photos and information. And the dining room table is big enough for meetings. You two planned this, Dorothy said, shaking her head but unable to hide her smile. We did, Marcus admitted, because you taught us that healing isn't something you do alone. It's something we do together. Dorothy climbed the porch steps slowly, running her hand along the railing as if she couldn't quite believe it was real. Inside, the house was simple but furnished with everything she'd need. Marcus had made sure of that. Comfortable furniture, a full kitchen, warm blankets on the beds. But he'd also left space for Dorothy to make it her own, to fill it with the life she was building. In the living room, above the fireplace, hung a shadow box containing a small teddy bear with one button eye. Mr. Buttons had found his permanent home here, a reminder of the chain of kindness that had brought them all together. Patricia Chen helped me set that up, Emma said, following Dorothy's gaze. She comes to visit sometimes. She likes to sit and talk about Lily, says it helps to be around people who understand. Dorothy traced the frame with her fingers. A bear led me to you, she whispered. A bear in a dumpster, if I hadn't found him that morning. But you did, Marcus said firmly. You found him and you cared enough to want to return him to whoever loved him. That's who you are, Dorothy. That's who you've always been, even when the streets tried to convince you otherwise. Over the next few weeks, word spread about Dorothy's house on Maple Street. The parents Marcus and Dorothy had met during their search started stopping by. They'd share photos, exchange information, drink coffee at Dorothy's kitchen table, and remind each other that they weren't alone in their searching. Some of them found their children. Many didn't, but they found each other, and sometimes that had to be enough. Emma graduated from Second Chances that spring and moved into an apartment nearby. She'd found work at a non-profit that helped homeless youth, using her own experience to connect with kids who reminded her of who she'd been. She and Marcus had dinner every Sunday, a tradition they held sacred. They talked about Claire now, sharing memories without the sharp edge of grief that had once silenced them. The past would always hurt, but it no longer held them prisoner. As for Marcus, he'd discovered something unexpected through all of this. Purpose. He'd spent his life building buildings, but now he was helping build something more important: connections, community, hope. He'd started a foundation in Claire's name that funded programs like Second Chances and provided housing assistance for people like Dorothy who were trying to rebuild their lives. On a warm evening in June, Marcus, Emma, and Dorothy sat on Dorothy's porch, watching the neighborhood kids play in the street. A young mother walked by with a toddler, waving hello. 2 houses down, a man who'd been homeless for 5 years was mowing his lawn. He'd moved in last month with help from Marcus's foundation. You know what I realized? Emma said suddenly. Mom's wedding ring. I'm ready to give it back to you, Dad. Marcus shook his head. Keep it. Your mother would have wanted you to have it. No, Emma said gently. I think Mom would have wanted me to learn what it really represents. It's not about holding on to someone who's gone. It's about learning to love without fear. About staying, even when leaving feels easier. She looked at Dorothy. About finding family in unexpected places and not running away when things get hard. Dorothy reached over and squeezed Emma's hand. Then she took Marcus's hand too, connecting them in a chain of 3. I never found my Emma, she said quietly. But I found you, and I found this life. And maybe that's its own kind of miracle. Maybe it is, Marcus agreed. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set. 3 people who'd been lost and found their way home. Not to where they'd been before, but to somewhere new. Somewhere better. Somewhere built on the truth that sometimes the things we're searching for find us when we stop looking inward and start reaching outward instead. The porch light flickered on automatically as darkness fell. And Marcus thought about how such a small light could cut through so much shadow. How one act of kindness, stopping to talk to a woman digging through a dumpster, had led to this moment. How caring about a stranger's teddy bear had brought his daughter home. He looked at Dorothy, who'd been invisible to the world until someone finally saw her. He looked at Emma, who'd been lost until she found the courage to let herself be found. And he understood finally what Claire had always tried to tell him about seeing potential in broken things. We're not broken at all, he thought. We're just waiting for someone to see us clearly. If you enjoyed this story of hope and healing, please remember to like this video. Leave a comment sharing your own thoughts or experiences with family, forgiveness, or second chances, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. Thank you for joining us on this journey. May you always find your way home, no matter how far you've traveled or how lost you've felt along the way.